Well, what would I have moved if I would have made a motion, Janine? Do you know?
You would have moved the Planning Commission's recommendation with the 3 changes that you talked about.
Yeah.
I think that would do it.
Okay. Sure. That'd be fine.
So you're okay with Planning Commission changes, correct? And then you want to make 2 additional changes, which would be to...
2, yes.
Well, no, because you wanted to change some of the...
He wanted to subtract 8 and 7, modified distances.
The distances and the state border issue, I think, was what 2 things that we wanted to change.
So you wanted to move to adopt the recommendations of the Planning Commission with the following additions: removal of paragraph 8 on page 4, changing of the distances in paragraph 1 at the bottom of page 3 to require that 1,000 feet only apply to schools and daycare facilities, and that 500 feet remain with regards to all the other listed facilities. That same change on page 5, paragraph 1, 500 feet for schools and daycares.
1,000.
I'm sorry, 1,000 feet for schools and daycares, 500 feet for all other facilities. And you also wanted to remove paragraph 7 on page 5, the state border requirement. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you want any more discussion on that motion?
Unless you want to move something on my exemption for small growers.
I'm kind of convinced at this point that I need to think more about that and maybe get some more comments from some of the folks about that issue. I think it is something we're going to need to address, but I think it's more complicated than I initially thought it would be. And I think that's something that, personally, I'd like to see us work on in the next couple of weeks, but I'd like to see us adopt something tonight. So I'll give you my thoughts on your motion. I too appreciate the work of the Planning Commission, and I appreciate the testimony that we've had from you folks tonight. I mean, as you can see from what we're doing here, this is somewhat new to us. This is somewhat of a difficult issue. We're learning from you guys. We're kind of doing this on the fly. And like I said, I think probably what we adopt won't be absolutely perfect. There are some places where it will work, and there's some places where it won't work. And I think we want to hear from you where it's not working. We'll hear from the public where it's not working. And since this is so new to us, I think we'll obviously be making some adjustments that we anticipate here tonight, and probably some adjustments that we don't anticipate. But I think we want to make this work for our community. We want to make this work for legitimate patients that are utilizing this medication. But I think also at the same time, we don't want this to, none of us in the room want this to contribute to drug abuse issues in our community. I worry about that a great deal because I think if that happens, I think the voters may respond to that by removing this ability for patients to use it. So I think that's why you see us looking at regulations. I think there do need to be regulations. The staff has moved pretty quickly on this. As you know, we adopted a moratorium just a matter of weeks ago, a 6-month moratorium, but our staff moved pretty quickly. I want to thank Michael. You've committed a lot of work to this, I know, and it's been something new and difficult for you, and you're fairly new on our planning staff, but I think you've done an excellent job with this, and I certainly appreciate that. I don't like moratoria. When we adopted a moratorium in the county, I generally don't like moratorium. One of the Supreme Court justices said that justice delayed is justice denied. And a moratorium essentially is saying we're not going to give people the opportunity to come in and exercise their property rights. And that, I think, a right delayed is a right denied as well. But I think this moratorium was appropriate in that we'd had absolutely no legal framework or structure for any of these uses in the county. They're currently illegal under the county code. They're not provided for at all, which means the only way to be legal would be to come in under a special exception to our land use code. Well, we have a moratorium in effect, so no one can do that right now. So I think by doing this, we're creating a process whereby legal uses can come into the county and provide for the patients of the county, and I think that's a good thing. This is a property right. The voters have spoken, and I think the voters expect and deserve elected officials who will make their wishes work in the community. I think, again, we do need regulations because there are no legal options right now. I also think it's a little bit different than an agricultural product. This is a Class 1 controlled substance, and no one's breaking into homes to steal Aunt Edna's African violets, but obviously these uses are a little bit different. These uses will have impacts like any other business does, and those are regulated by land use codes, and they'll have some unique impacts as well. Other states has experienced that have had impacts of certainly there have been crimes even in the Denver area as early as last week, I think as late as last week regarding it, and I think there will be impacts on the adjacent property values. There are impacts on residents as well, and I think that the land use regulations need to deal with those impacts. But I think we need to strike a balance. I think any regulations need to do two things. I think, number one, they need to be appropriate to the impacts. Secondly, I think regulations apply or provide some certainty, some regulatory framework so that individuals, businesses are obviously risking their capital in doing these operations, and I think they deserve some certainty of what the regulatory environment will be. But the regulations have to be appropriate. As I said, if they're too light, I think the problems will multiply in the community and the voters may react. I think obviously if they're too heavy, then regulations will subvert a legitimate enterprise. I like the fact that we're providing for special review in the commercial and industrial zones. That is not a use by right. It's a special review process that an applicant will have to go through. The big key to the special review process is compatibility with the neighborhood. That's one of the big things we look at and that these guys look at with special review, and that means working with the neighbors. One of the testifiers said that he talked to a lot of the businesses adjacent to him and had educated them on that. I think, frankly, that's going to be the key to applicants that come forward under this framework. If you have talked to the neighbors, if you have talked to the businesses, if you have gotten over some of those misunderstandings so we don't have to deal with them here in the hearing, I think you will be miles ahead. So I will support these proposed regulations. Look forward to continuing to work on them, but I appreciate folks that came from some great distances, even other counties, and have given us their expertise. And I appreciate the fact that many of the folks that spoke are trying to do this right. I mean, that is helpful. And sometimes it looks like government is picking on you when you're trying to do that right. We don't write laws for people that are going to obey the laws. James Madison said, if men were angels, there'd be no need of government. We write laws and regulations for people that are going to try to subvert the process and go around it. And that hurts all of us when that happens. So if we have regulations that are appropriate, that are balanced, I think we will protect the interests of not only you as operators, but also the community and the public safety in the community, which we are sworn to protect. So, Mr. Lafferty.
Just so it's clear for the audience here tonight, I would hope that maybe we can look at page 6 of the packet under the suggested motions for the Board of County Commissioners and include in your motion that we retain the moratorium on the establishment of medical marijuana dispensaries and medical marijuana grow facility operations in the Estes Valley Plan area, and also revoke the moratorium for the remainder portions of the county. I think that would make it clear that we're not removing the moratorium in the Estes Valley Plan area until their boards take action on this.
So moved.
Yeah, and that's correct. We have a special intergovernmental agreement with Estes Park. The town and the valley do their own land use, and they have their own actual planning commission to do that. So that's correct. Any further comments?
Gosh, no, I kind of nodded off there when you were talking.
You do that a lot.
No, I'm done.
You did not miss anything. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Lafferty?
I believe that's it for this
We are
evening.
adjourned. It's interesting to see you guys.